Guess why we have such a high percentage of people with the number one revenue property in the market that they go operate in? I mean, we almost have everybody that will walk into the top 10% of the market, because they're willing to put in the work. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Sean Moore. We're back with Whiskey Wednesday.
Yes,
my
sir.
main man, Jake Sheehy.
Yes, sir.
And it is what, my friend?
It's a great day to be alive.
A great day to be alive.
Yes, sir.
Here we
Blessed and feeling amazing. Happy to be here. Great stuff on today's agenda. Amazing day.
Awesome. Well, what are we talking about this
All
week?
right. Okay, the title of this is the first thing you should do before investing in short-term rentals. Okay, a lot of people miss this step. This is quote unquote a hidden step, if you will. But we're going to go deep. We're going to talk about your true why, your goals, where people fall with procrastinating, talking about some of the things that you really need to hit on the head before you start investing in this, because this is a big thing for people to understand. Because you see a lot of times people will go, oh, I just want to make passive income. Oh, I just want the tax strategies like we talked about last week. But there's a lot of elements to this that people really need to understand. So we're going to go through all that stuff. Then we're going to answer this email that we got sent in, Billy and Amanda. Thank you, about the Taylor Swift tax. Very interesting. And that's what we're going to be going over today. But of course, we got to do it again. These people, these members of ours, man, they're outperforming. They're crushing.
They are.
We got another one. Chris Barnett. Look at this. Jelly Beans Chalet.
Ooh,
number
Jelly Bean
2.
Chalet. Nice. Property number 2, Chris. Good job,
Look
brother.
at that. They just keep coming,
Nice.
man.
I actually haven't seen this one.
This
Looking
is
good. I saw it when it came through on the analysis, property analysis, but I haven't seen the finished product. Good job, Chris. Looking good. As usual, Vodyssey signature recipe, setup, design.
beautiful views.
Good optimized listing. Sweet.
Beautiful property. And this
property.
is like multiple weeks in a row. We're just showing off these properties.
Yeah.
Once again, link in bio. Go check it out. Back in generic. Go look at what they're doing.
We always say success leaves clues. Go reverse engineer. Check this stuff out. There's a reason why these properties do well.
It's just how it's
So
what
we're
it
not
is.
trying
It's
to
what
keep
it
it a
is.
secret. We're trying to say, hey, listen, we talk about this every week, couple times a week.
Man, I'm sorry.
There we go. We show them. So there we go. Go check it out. Good job, Chris.
All right, let's get into this. First one, we're going to talk about why is it important to find your true why. Okay, in step 1, we have this amazing tool. It's the 7 layers of deep. Right now, I really want to kind of help you, or not help you, help me understand why is it important to go this deep with a why. Like someone says, I want to make passive income. Why? Why do you? And then we'll answer that with another why. And get me into the mindset of why this is important to do.
Yeah, I learned this from Dean Graziosi. I was at a seminar a long time ago, probably at least 10 years ago, probably. And Dean Graziosi was talking about going and figuring out the real reasons and the real motivators behind why we're doing stuff. A lot of times you're like, hey, why do you want to invest in short-term rentals? I want to make more money.
Right.
That's not going to last, right? That's that's the byproduct of why we want to do it. You want more money. Why do you want more money, right? And it's like, is it because you want to fund, an education? Is it you want to fund a certain lifestyle? Is it that you want to help your kids? Is it do you want to donate to a certain favorite charity? And then we say, okay, well, why do you want to donate to that charity? And then you go you just keep asking why. 7 layers of why. So you can kind of come down to the real reason behind what you're really trying to do and trying to build. Because what happens is, and we talked about this before, motivation fades, and when motivation fades and you can look in the mirror and say, there's a deep underlying reason why I want something. And if I stay really surface, it's really easy for us to walk away from surface reasons.
Right.
It's harder to walk away when you look in the mirror and say, I'm funding this because, I have I want to make sure that my kids are going to be set up. Well, why do I want my kids set up? Well, because if anything happens, I want to be able to take time off, right? I lost my mom this year. And one of the reasons that I didn't know I had, and one of the benefits of having lifestyle financial freedom and being able to take time off whenever I wanted to and spend time with her for a 3-month period is now that is a part of my big reason why. My why can change. Your why, the goalpost can move a little bit. And so one of the reasons why, and I was talking about this on stage at a conference I was just at, is saying, hey, listen, there's 2 things that became crystal clear during that experience this year. Is one, time is fleeting. We have way less time than we think. And most of us have lost somebody close. And it's a sobering reminder how how short life really is, how fragile life really is. But a lot of times we forget about it when enough time passes by, right? And we start to, you know, when the pain of the loss is at its peak, we remember it.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, as life starts to happen and everything else, we start to kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
Not that we forget about them, but as that pain starts to fade a little bit, we forget about how short life really is, how fragile life really is. And we start to say again, I'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
I'll get to it someday. And so one, that was a massive, like that cemented that lesson back in my brain to say, hey, listen, life is short, right?
Yeah.
Two, I think everybody needs to have a passive income vehicle. I didn't say everybody has to have short-term rentals. I said they have to figure out how to make money while they sleep, right? Build something that pays you so that you can take off whenever you want to take off. If you don't want to work for 3 months because you need to spend it with somebody who needs you, then be able to do that. That is now part of my why. It is not, I don't want, you know, a lot of this stuff because of the good times. I want it there for the bad times. I want it there when, you know, shit hits the fan and I have to make a decision of saying, what's the most important thing in my life? And so when you start to really go through the reasons why you do this, and because you're going to wake up so many days when you don't feel like doing it, you don't feel like putting in the work, you don't feel like you're moving fast enough, and you've got to be able to keep moving. How do I sign off every single show? I say pick one thing that you can do today to build a life you don't want to take vacation from. Just one. You know, you don't have to run a marathon every day, because there are going to be some days where you feel super motivated and you feel like getting after it, right? It's a great day to be alive. Let's get after it. Like I walked into the office today, you're like, man, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good one, man. So, and there's other days I walk in the office and you got your hood on and you're like, I'm like, bro, you still asleep?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And those days you're like, hey, I just need to take one step ahead.
Yeah.
The other days we're like, man, we might run a little bit further down the road. And we all have that. That's how we're all built. But having a really solid reason why on those days that we don't feel like doing anything and we have it written down and it's right in front of us, it's really hard for us to look in the mirror and say, when we've really identified our top priorities, or why we want to do something, it's really hard to say, no, that's not important. I don't want to do that today. But it is very easy to walk away from surface ideas. So that's why I think that stuff's important. You know, it's really, you know, you talk about, everybody's like, just show me the work, show me how to get the work done, you know, how to do all this stuff. But we realize there's a lot of hard days ahead. And there's a lot of days where you're not going to feel like doing anything. You're not going to feel like that this is the right path forward. And you have to say, listen, why am I doing this? And if you don't have a good reason, if you don't have a good answer to that question, you stop. We all do. Like you being like a general, like encompassing all of us, is we all will stop if we don't have a good answer to why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
Right?
I love it. All right. Talk to me about, is this something that just each individual person should do? Or is this, if you're in a couple, you're in a marriage, should you and your wife sit down and do this together? Or is this, no, you each separate and you come up with your own?
Both. And you absolutely, you've got a significant other. You're making big life decisions together. You guys should probably be pretty aligned, but but your whys may be a little bit different, and it's good to do it separately, and it's good to compare the two and make sure that we're still like running down that same road and we're running down parallel and we're not like both on a whole different wavelength, right? And so you have to, but it is more of an individual exercise. And then you're going to, you know, husbands, wives, you're gonna merge and say, hey, listen, okay, now let's look at each other's together. Let's talk about it together. Let's make sure that the priorities are set as our family starts to grow and progress and everything else, and then we're all in alignment.
I love it. Okay, how many times should someone do this? Is this a every beginning of the year resolution type thing?
You and I are going to start talking a lot about because it's time of year, about New Year's resolutions, everything else. I think they're a bunch of bullshit. I don't like them. I don't like setting them. But it's a natural time where people reflect. I just don't like them because people give up on them statistically a month in, right?
Well, you don't go deep enough on your why, dude. You don't go deep enough.
So it's not that I don't like business planning, and we do it around here. We do it personally, everything else. But I don't necessarily set like a only time I think about this stuff is around January 1st, right? This is something you are constantly thinking about. It's not just a once a year. I would say minimum once a quarter, you're reviewing this kind of stuff. The goalpost moves based on your life experiences. This year, it was I hadn't, you know, I've lost grandparents and stuff. I have never lost somebody like as close as my mom this year. And that now is a big part of my why, so that I can say, hey, listen, this is, I want to make sure that I continue to stay in the position to take whatever time I need, have whatever bills I need to be paid. When you're fighting a battle, when it has to do with medical battles, and and the cost of medicine and the cost of making decisions on this drug might work or this treatment might work, but it's not covered by insurance. And there were times where my mom's like, we can't afford it. I'm like, yeah, we can't afford it, Mom. Like, we can afford it. And so you don't want to be in those positions to make it. So yes, the goalpost moves. Should we review that on a regular basis? Absolutely. My why before kids was way different than my why after kids. My why now as the kids are growing up is different than it was when they were young, right? And so I think you do this on a regular basis and think about this. And it's not, I was the last person that thought that this stuff was important until I actually did it. I resisted it. I was not the guy that was like, I'm like, hey, listen, just tell me the direction and I'll go. Because, by nature, I feel like I'm a fairly disciplined person. I'm willing to challenge myself. I'm willing to do the things that I don't really feel like doing, and felt like that. At least that's how I identified, with myself. But then when I started doing this, man, you want to talk about the drive just getting that much more fierce and that much more like intense. And those things that now that we wake up and like I make, I am now. I make fun of these guys that are online. I retired at 30. I retired at 20. Why the hell are you still making TikTok videos? Why the hell are you running a business? You're not retired, right? You've never heard me say I'm retired. I am financially independent. That's not retired. I work every damn day. And I think it's so funny that the sometimes that goalpost of these, these people that are so-called retired, you didn't retire. You quit one job and started doing something else. And in real estate investing, we hear the word retired a lot. They're not really retired. They can't stop and just be done, right? Or and if they can, that's being financially independent. That means, hey, listen, I could do that if I wanted, but I choose to work every day still. And so I can't even remember why I was going to bring that up, but I had a point behind that. And if I think of it, I'll tell you back again. There was a reason why I brought that up, and then I went off.
Watch this. I'm going to transition real easy. We can go right into goals.
All right, go right into
it's a second bullet point here. Okay, so we're talking about this other point. I want to be honest about the clarity tool here, mapping your bigger future. This is in our step 1, the plan. And I would assume that it's very easy for people to talk about present goals. Right. And that seems like it's going to be a thing that's like, right now we want to make passive income. In 2026, we want to have our first short-term rental. Those are some present goals. But it seems like, and you've got a lot more experience in this, so I'm curious to see, do people have more of a struggle talking about past goals that maybe they didn't hit? Right? If we're going to talk about adding fuel to the fire, understanding your why, then number 2 here, if you had just had the best year of your life, what did it look like? What if somebody didn't have the best year of their life, right? But now they're going to think. Well,
this is asking you to be forward thinking. This is saying,
okay,
if I put you a year ahead and not looking back and saying, okay, why was your year so shitty?
Right.
It's saying, hey, listen, if I could fast forward a year and I could look back and describe my perfect year. Like describe.
Oh, okay.
Like looking back, this was the best year of my life. What did it look like? And it's just a way for people to visualize, what do they want to do? Like, what are they trying to do in a year? Like, let's at least do some forward thinking goals, right? Because less than half of the people ever think about long-term goals, and long-term being defined by a year or more out.
Get out.
Look it up. I'm telling you, I think it's more than that. And so I used to talk about this in a presentation I did, and I pulled up the stats. Very few people think about a year or more out, and they don't talk about their year-long goals. And because what happens is we naturally overestimate what we can do in 30 days and we underestimate what we can do in a year. And so we always think in 2 weeks, a week, 30 days, 60 days out. And that's like long term for most people. They're not thinking in these longer term time horizons. The longer you think ahead, and the longer that you can stick with something for a period of time, like think of like Elon Musk, right? richest man in the world.
Yeah.
He thinks in 20 years in increments. He's thinking 20 years from now, what am I going to be doing? 20 years ago, he was talking about, having, driving cars and electric cars and spaceships and everything else. And then he makes that happen. Now he's whatever he's talking about, taking over the world with robots, whatever. Most likely it's going to happen.
Right.
But he's thinking in 20 years out. Really successful people, a lot of them, you're going to hear them talk about 3, 5, 10-year time horizons, right?
Wow.
They're not talking about these shorter term time horizons. Did you find that?
Well,
Around
this
80% don't set goals.
80%?
90% give up within weeks or months. But that's because there's not a solid why. You just brought that up, right? I have a 9-step process that we plug people into. And the first 2 steps have nothing to do with real estate investing. It's called plan. And then we talk about understanding the game we're going to get into. Plan, what does the future look like?
Right.
Understand how this new asset class is going to fit into that plan. And then we start to talk about locating, partner, acquire, set up, market, refine, and then maximize, right? But we don't even get into it until step 3, where we even start to even consider locations, right? Because we have to understand what we're really diving into. We have to understand what are the resources we have, what are all those things that we're doing, what kind of goals do we have?
Right.
I'm here today, I want to go here tomorrow. How am I going to get there? And do I even have the resources to get there? We have to understand that entire game that we're going to play.
Man, that's such an interesting statistic. 80% don't set goals. I'm so curious on why that is. I don't understand that. It doesn't even make sense. I can't even comprehend that, to be honest with you. Like, even if it's just a 5-year time horizon, nothing. Huh?
Nothing. Oh, that's asking a lot. So start with
5 years seems normal. Like we used to do that at school,
year, right? Like, yeah. I mean, it's not a 5-year time horizon for a lot of people. That's a very most people don't think in year, 3, 5, 10 years. Like, okay, what am I trying to put together? What am I trying to do? We're this instant gratification world that we live in, and it's now. There's a stark contrast between the people who set goals and that don't, as far as their income levels. When you really talk about, like, this is the average that you pulled up, 80% of people don't set goals.
Right.
When you start talking about certain net worths, I bet you'll find a bigger difference, or a bigger percentage of people who do set goals. Probably 80% of them do. And so if that's the case, why wouldn't we say, hey, listen, maybe I should start thinking about that. Maybe I should start, having a path that I'm going to stick on long enough to make something happen.
Okay, I love that. That was really interesting. That huge takeaway. Set some goals. Write them down. Have a map.
Yeah.
Okay, this was a quote here. Most people understand where they are and where they want to go, but struggle to fill in key milestones along the way. What are some key milestones is my question. I mean, for instance, for when I think of this, I think of buying the property, closing the deal.
Right.
And maybe another key milestone is launching the property. Those seem like kind of basic in my opinion, but are those good key ones, or should there be other things?
Every path you're on is going to have milestones, right? And so again, we run down this road and we say, okay, here's where I am today. Here's where I want to go tomorrow.
Right.
And the mistake that a lot of people make is they think they have to know that entire road, what that entire road looks like, and understand it and everything else. That's analysis by paralysis, right? They're going to just sit there and do nothing because they're like, I don't know how to get to where I want to go. So that's where like coaching or mentorship comes in. Just talk to people who've done it before. Right? There's no sense in the world anymore to go reinvent the wheel. It makes zero sense. There's plenty of people that have more experience than you that are willing to show you, and there's so much information. Information is not, there's not a lack of information. There's not a lack of how to anymore. You don't have to understand the entire process. It's laid out for you. Execution's the problem. Information's not a problem. Implementation, execution is where you say, hey, listen, now that I have this, I want to go here. And then along the way, right? Let's say we are talking about 3-year, 5-year time horizons, 1-year time horizon. Well, it's January and I'm in February. How do I know if I'm on track? Like, what are the steps and the milestones? And so depending on the path you're taking, whether it's health, whether it's relationships, whether it's real estate investing, whatever it is, they're going to have key performance indicators or milestones that you're paying attention to. In our world, that first one is selecting a market. Like let's figure out what market we're going to go into. Next one is making our first offer. Maybe it gets accepted, maybe it doesn't. Then we're buying a house, right? Then we're getting an offer accepted, and then we're getting that property purchased. Then we're getting it launched. Then we're setting up our listing and optimizing it. So there's milestones along the way.
Okay.
When I might have said, my perfect year is going to be to acquire my first lifestyle asset, and it's making me $30,000 a year, $50,000 a year, whatever it is, right? And I've got that set up. So as I'm going from January to December, I say, okay, here's where I am today. Here's where I want to go. Where I want to go is one of the things that I put was I'm going to acquire my first or next lifestyle asset. It's going to be set up. It's going to be optimized, making me $50,000 a year. Then along the way, we have those little indicators. Am I on the right path? Am I making enough offers? Am I getting offers accepted? Am I getting it set up correctly? Do I have the things necessary to operate and maximize this property? Am I making those types of decisions, right? I said I want to do this, but am I willing to spend the money and the time to set it up correctly? So all those, and that's just an example of our world, right? But every single path you're running down, you're most likely going to have multiple goals, right? Maybe one of your goals was, I want to be in attendance and be able to attend all of my kids' activities and games and performances and all the things that they're involved in. Maybe that was one of your deals. Well, the milestone is, did you make it to this week's, right? Yeah. Did you make it to next week's? Did you arrange your schedule to make it a priority, right? So whatever it is, maybe I'm losing weight. Maybe I'm putting on muscle. Well, did I go to the gym today? How did I eat today? Did I get enough sleep? Right? Every single road you run down has basic fundamental principles that you need to be following, including investing in short-term rentals. And so it's identifying what they are and making sure that when you look in the mirror at the end of the day, at the end of the week, did I do those things? Did I progress toward that? Or did I just sit and get comfortable sitting on the sideline and do nothing? Doing nothing is the most costly mistake that almost everybody makes at some point in their life. And they just get comfortable not moving forward on something.
Wow. Okay, I want to, of course, a lot of people's are different, and it's not like an umbrella thing here, but I want to hit on it. Maybe someone, they want to have 2026 to be their year where they acquire their first lifestyle asset. They want this to be their year. What could be a realistic timeline for them? Should they, let me kind of try and walk through this mindset. Should they be thinking, let's try to buy this thing by Q1, and by the beginning of Q4, let's have this thing launched. That way we can have the tax benefits at the end of the year. Is that a realistic thing, or could you try and shrink that into 6 months? Depending on is that
it's 100% realistic. It can be shrunk into probably 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
When we ran a poll from our group, 58% of our members were under contract within 60 days, and then 78% of our members were under contract within 90 days.
Wow.
So you can absolutely accelerate that progress, right? And so it's going to be somewhere in that 3 month, maybe 6 month range that you're like, hey, listen, what does it take me to acquire that property? Then I need a month or so, maybe 2, to get it set up and launched. Okay. And so it's really identifying the buy box. When you're buying real estate, you hear a lot of people talk about the buy box, right? Identifying what we call property goals. What are our property goals? What does my buy box look like? And then being patient enough to be looking at enough properties, making enough offers on those properties that fit within that property goal guideline. And then ultimately being able to say no to the ones that don't. Because in real estate, things can happen really fast. We might identify this. I go through, I plan out what I'm really trying to do. I understand the game I'm playing. I have all the resources. I select my market. I identify my buy box, and then boom, the right property shows up on our lap right out of the gate. There's other times where you have to be patient, and that's a very realistic scenario where you could be in a market with low inventory, low options, and all of a sudden you're sitting there for 3 or 6 months and you're really not even being able to make offers because you're not finding anything. So real estate is a game of patience. Period. Right? We're buying properties to put in our portfolio for the long term. So I don't just want to go buy garbage, because if I'm going to have to be sleeping with that garbage for a long period of time, all of a sudden it's not that fun, right?
Yeah, no.
And so I don't want to. I'm going to be patient enough. So the timing is realistic. Timing is based on what opportunities are presented to you. But guess what?
Right.
Opportunity doesn't show up wrapped in really nice wrapping paper with a bow on it with a tag that says opportunity.
Right.
Right. And so that's what people think happens. You have to train yourself to recognize those opportunities because it shows up pretty beat down, run down, not optimized. And you have to be able to see the opportunity in it. There are a lot of times diamonds in the rough. It doesn't mean they're always fix and flip type properties. That's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of beautiful properties that are short-term rentals that are completely underperforming that we have to recognize. Is there potential for that one to perform, or is there not potential for that one to perform?
Okay, so
Timing is all about basically just being able to recognize and take advantage of the opportunities when they come to you. Some markets, it might come to you faster than other markets. Other markets, you're sitting there waiting. There's certain markets that are very difficult based on the acquisition price and the revenue that they're going to generate that you might be sitting there for a year waiting for the right property. But usually those are the highest quality markets. And so highest appreciating markets. So kind of think about your more expensive kind of Class A resort towns that are expensive to buy into. A lot of people go to them, but the ratio between acquisition and revenue is not really favorable. So you might just sit there and wait for that right property in that perfect market to show up. But most markets, you're going to have opportunities to see. But a lot of new investors, they don't train themselves to recognize those opportunities. So they can either be jumping into the wrong stuff or they're waiting for a long time.
Is it smart to have multiple markets that you're looking at, or should you just stick with one?
It's very hard. Because the opportunity looks different in every market. It's understanding the fundamentals of what makes short-term rentals work, but every market has its own nuances. You're going to learn the good side of the tracks, the bad side of the tracks, exactly where you'll dial in that proximity. Do I need to be, how close to the ski hill do I need to be? How close to the national parks do I need to be? How close to the beach do I need to be? Right? It's really obvious if I'm beachfront, ski hill, like ski in, ski out, or I'm right at the doors of the national park. But every one of those markets has these areas that you get further and further out from. Also, I always tell people, never look at more than 2 to 3 markets at a time. And because you will just, as you know, we do this all day, every day. Jacob Payne, our acquisitions manager, is always looking at markets. He's analyzing deals all across the country every single day. But when we're in acquisition mode, he's really dialed into 2 or 3 maximum at a time. And because he needs to be able to recognize those opportunities. And until he sees enough properties and sees enough of what's going on, the little nuances in the local markets, it's difficult for him to recognize that. And so I tell that with investors all the time. So I suggest one market, maybe 2. 3 is really stretching it unless you've done this a few times.
Okay, that really helps. All right, going on to my next point here. Biggest procrastination pits. I guess this seems like a very open point to me, in my opinion. Here, I'm thinking about, people they join, they get excited, and they think we have the whole year. I have all year. So is there some things that you've noticed? You've been in this for so long. Have you noticed that some people really start to ease up when it's summer vacation, when it's spring break? They start to ease up. Holidays. They get procrastinate a lot more. Or do you feel like, they'll buy the property and they'll sit on it for a little bit and they'll procrastinate because now that they have like a sense of relaxation, we got the property. Do you notice that there are places where people kind of lull in their 100%.
Speed? Okay. And we've always called them separation seasons. I think I got separation season from Ed Milet. He does a nice talk on it years ago that I heard. But a lot of people talk about it now, including us. And what's really interesting, you just mentioned 3 major times when people just sit and be like, I'll do it as soon as spring break's over. I'll do it as soon as summer vacation's over. I'll do it as soon as the holidays are over. So let's really break this down, because those are realistic times when people say, I'll do it after this, right? Because it's the number one procrastination pit is saying, I'll get to it tomorrow, right? That's the definition of procrastination, not taking action today, I'll do it tomorrow. We give ourselves reasons why we're going to do it tomorrow. Those are 3, that's a reason. Scary. Season. So think about this. Spring break is usually when? February, March, right? Ish time frame. So if I say, I'm going to take advantage of those times, and I'm going to sit and I'm not going to do anything during that time. Think about how often you're actually saying you're going to take action. So I'm going to give myself January, maybe part of February. So I'll give myself 2 months. And I'm going to take off part of February and March based on spring break. And then I'll get to it before summer break. So then I'm going to give myself basically April and May, right? And then I'm taking off because usually people take off about mid-May because it's graduations and everything else.
Right.
Like, now I'm going to go into my summer season. And then summer doesn't end until the end of August. So now I've given myself, maybe I'm going to work September, October, and then guess what happens right after October? We're
holidays.
right into the holidays.
Yeah.
So I just took and said, I'm going to take off. I'm only going to give myself 6 months out of a 12-month year to work.
Ooh.
Or to take action on something. I know people are going to work every day, but this happens all the time. We're right in the middle of a separation season of the holidays. It makes zero sense to me, never has made any sense, where people are like, I'm going to wait till the first of the year. I'm going to wait till after the holidays. Why? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't register.
Right.
And I just think to myself, it's why all of the stats that we pull up on the averages look so bad, because the average human being will give themselves every reason not to take action. I get we're preaching to the choir. Average people don't listen to our podcast. We're not like we're not like funny. We're not that entertaining. We're just informational type stuff.
Okay.
Come on. But we're not like, my point is, people don't turn us on to just chill out and veg out and listen to us, right? So our group that listens to us, they're going to be more on the side of the action takers. And so I know we're preaching to the choir, but the average stats of average human beings out there are pretty pathetic, right? And it's because we justify not doing anything. The other reason why is there's this thing called the emotional cycle of change. And it's one of the biggest reasons why people kind of stop doing something. They start taking action. So there's a lot of people that start down a road and they stop, and they start and they stop, and they start and they stop, and they look back and they're like, well, I was taking action. I was doing this. You didn't do it long enough, right? Because this emotional cycle of change, and people can look it up. Right when we hear about these new ideas, there's this point of time where it's called the uninformed optimism. Uninformed optimism is, we heard about it. We heard about all the good things about short-term rentals, how much money I'm going to make. You know, life's going to be different, lifestyle, financial freedom, all this different stuff, right? And then we start running down the road. We're like, I'm taking action. I'm doing it. I'm diving in.
Yeah.
I start running down the road, and they're like, whoa, this kind of sucks. This is hard, right? This road's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I have to actually do some work.
Right.
I have to roll up my sleeves. You know, I have to do these things. And then we get into this informed pessimism, right? And this is where people start to say, this isn't as great as I thought it was going to be. And this is when we start looking over the fence and thinking, oh, is the grass greener over there?
Right.
You know, and then we get to this valley of despair and we jump over the fence.
Right.
And we say, now I'm going over there. And we saw the green grass, and then we do the exact same thing, and we just repeat this cycle. We go uninformed optimism. We get excited about that pasture over there.
Yeah.
We start running down the road. We start realizing, oh, this pasture needs to be watered. It needs to be cut. It needs to be fertilized. There's work over here too to make it look really nice. And we say, oh, well, there's actually a fence on that other side. And that pasture looks really nice, right? And so we just go over and over. It's why people jump from real estate to Bitcoin to back to another part of real estate to business or whatever it is. And we don't stick with anything. The emotional cycle of change is really important for us to put in enough time and effort where we make it through the valley of despair. And then we get what we call informed optimism, right? And we start to say, hey, listen, I can start to see the results. This is when some of the results start to come in. This is when we get that first asset and we start to make a little bit of money. And we get that first booking and we start to say, oh, you know, all this work is starting to pay off.
Yeah.
It's not exactly where I was hoping to get yet because it's just starting, but I'm starting to get I'm starting to get optimistic again because I'm getting informed about the work it took. I start getting results, and now all of a sudden I keep putting in the work. So now I'm motivated to put more work in, and as I put more work and time goes by, I get the fulfillment, the success, and we reach our goal, right? And so there's this valley that we're always going through, whatever we're doing. You know, when you go to the gym. You go to the gym the first day and you're sore as hell and you look in the mirror and you're like, this isn't working. You go for 2 weeks and you're like, okay, I'm going to keep battling through. 2 weeks later, you still look the same in the mirror, right? Nothing really changes other than you're tired and you're sore, right? And so, and you still look, the same as you looked before. And we start to say, I don't know if I want to do this. So there's this shot that I'm going to give myself. And I'm going to find the easy button. Boom.
Right.
And so anyways, poking fun at that. I mean, the Ozempic shot, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's what we do. We jump from one pasture to the next, and every pasture we get in has another fence that the grass looks greener. And So when you talk about procrastination, first, we just start to say, I'm going to give myself reasons and excuses of why I don't want to start today. But then there's that other side of the coin where we say, well, I did take action, I did try, and it didn't work. And so now I'm going to have to do something else, or now this doesn't work. And I'm a big believer that almost any road you run down is going to work if you put enough effort and time in. Right. And so it's a matter of looking in the mirror and saying, am I willing to go study the emotional cycle of change? And I can't remember who published it. It's an old publication, or it's an old study that was done. But we all go through this, really excited. We start putting in the work. It's more of the work than we thought. We look for the greener pastures, and we give up, and we just repeat this cycle over and over. So,
well, I mean, not to completely blow smoke, right now, blow smoke up your butt, but I think this is one of the main reasons people really like and are drawn to Vodyssey, if I'm being quite honest with you, because of your messaging of, it is hard. This does take a lot of money at the beginning. It's not an easy road, and you have to really want to do this. You have to talk about your goals and talk about your true why. And these, there's gonna be points where it's gonna hurt and it's gonna suck. But since you talk about it on the front end, I think a lot of people will be like, it helps them cope when they're in that valley. Yeah. When they're like, oh, hey, man, we told you it was going to be like this, but there's also, you can see the results. We started out this podcast showing somebody who's made it through that valley, right? So I think that's a huge thing of...
How many times do the posts in our school groups, they post these properties, hey, just got our first property launched. Man, it was tough. Man, it was a grind, but we're so proud of ourselves. Here's what it turned out to be. And then boom, it's like everybody had to work through that. And you're right. You say a lot of people are drawn to it. I don't know how many, I think we get the select people who are willing to look at the world through at least our lens, and our view of this world is, but there's, you look at any walk of life, any sports champion, you follow anybody that has won it all. It's my favorite book of all time is Winning by Tim Grover. And the entire premise of that book is winning's hard. Yeah. It's like, it's really hard.
It seems like such an easy premise, dude, but some people just, I guess
it's
it doesn't
not
click.
what people want to hear.
I know.
This is
so
hard.
Interesting.
This is a tough sell. How many times do our marketers say, oh, man, you got to ease up a little bit on what it takes. I'm like, no, I don't want to, because guess why we have such a high percentage of people that succeed? Guess why we have such a high percentage of people with the number one revenue property in the market that they go operate in? I mean, we almost have everybody that will walk into the top 10% of the market, because they're willing to put in the work. Right?
Yeah.
It's like there's a reason why, and it's not because we have the best program since sliced bread, which we do, but that's not the reason. It's because we have such amazing people that are willing to put in the work. Right? They're willing to say, hey, listen, I'm willing to roll up my sleeves. I'm willing to go through the great, look, I love, we have to have vision. We have to say, here's where I am today and here's where I want to go tomorrow. Those should be big visions. They should be big, exciting, like that uninformed optimism should live in all of us. The dreamers should live in all of us. But then also when we start running toward those dreams, don't give up on them because it got hard. Right. Because anything we're having is on the other side of really hard stuff.
Oh, man. Just get me fired up, man. I need to go do something hard today. I need to do something hard today.
Hey, you already came in fired up today.
All right. Let's go to my last point here.
Okay.
This is just kind of just wrapping a bow on the end of it. Okay, so some people, they may be listening to this and think, maybe I don't need to do that. This is girly fluff, man. This. I don't need to write out my feelings on what my goals are or, what made this year so great. I don't need to do that. What would you say to them? Just do it, man. It's going to help you in the long term.
You tell yourself whatever story you want to tell yourself. Yeah. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. I mean, at the end of the day, I really don't give a shit. I mean, really. I mean, there is a part of where the woo meets the work, right? You can't just talk about it. We can't just paint a vision board and it doesn't just happen. Right? But it is it's really good to have this vision of where we want to go. It's really it's nice to see those things. It's good to be a dreamer. It's good to think big. And ultimately, we're just saying you have to put in the work to get there. So let's figure out a path can help us accelerate toward that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, whether you do or don't, I mean,
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Right.
But
It's up to you.
I just find that when people do this, it seems to have a bigger success. I mean, apparently 80% of people don't do it. So if you want to, if you want to beat out the vast majority, you might as well just try it.
Yeah.
Try it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go into our last point here. Thank you, Billy and Amanda, for sending this in. Let's talk about the Taylor Swift tax. So here's the article. Let me just read the headline real fast. This is on CNBC. Rhode Island's Taylor Swift tax on vacation homes of the wealthy is spreading to other states. And as we go down this article, and it kind of gives some numbers here, do you think I should read this at all? Or
no, what it is, and I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
It is, these municipalities are imposing surcharges, additional taxes on non-owner occupied properties.
Okay.
And so that affects us when we're buying second homes, renting them out as short-term rentals, right? Or investor properties. And it's happening in a lot of different areas. It's not just Rhode Island.
Okay.
They use her property as an example because it's this extreme example of a $20+ million property.
Yep.
Yeah, $28 million property. And so her taxes are not quite doubling, but they're going from a couple $100,000 to 100, raising by 130, 150 grand. And so these surcharges on the property taxes on non-owner occupied properties are being talked about in a lot of different areas and different states. Now, the drawback, and where I think the states need to be really careful, is I think that it does make at certain times make sense, right? You're talking about Florida, for example, right now. Getting rid of property tax. And they're saying Ron DeSantis is making a huge push to get rid of property tax. But he is saying only on owner-occupied properties. And that makes sense, right? You're saying, hey, listen, we want people moving here, contributing to Florida, everything else. Now, we can argue that rentals, short-term rentals, they're still contributing, right? So you can definitely make the argument, and I agree with the argument. But we are seeing, and like if I had to make an argument one side or the other, I'm definitely on the argument side of, hey, listen, we contribute to the area, we contribute to the economy, and property tax should be equal across the board. However, you do need to be aware that this is happening. Our neighboring state of Idaho, right here next to us, has you pay higher property tax if you have a non-owner occupied property in Idaho. There's a number of states doing it, and you really need to look into it. Colorado was trying to pass a law where they were going to triple the property taxes on short-term rentals, and I don't think it was just non-owner occupied properties. I think they were specifically targeting short-term rentals in Colorado. And it didn't pass. It was up on the docket, didn't pass. But when those things conversations start to happen, as an investor, property tax is a big fixed expense that we pay every single year on our properties. And so we need to be very careful and pay attention to that when we buy into those types of areas. If that stuff has been had conversations about, again, you not to get political by any stretch, because Idaho is a very conservative state, and they have double property tax, but you will find that you're going to see this in more left-leaning areas and left-leaning states, because they're going to be higher regulated. Florida is not, though, right? But they're talking about eliminating it and then keeping it on the non-owner occupants. So that's not a sweeping statement, but you will typically find you need to pay attention to those areas that are higher regulations and more strict rules and regulations around not just short-term rentals, but pretty much everything, right? And so,
no, is this to say this is happening to short-term rentals, or is this? I mean, what about like if you have a long-term rental? Because it's your second
occupied.
So that would also happen to you. So this isn't. I don't want to say this is just short-term rentals.
It's not just short-term rentals.
Okay.
Like these are non-owner occupied property tax increases.
Okay.
And so it affects long-term rentals, everything else. And so what does that do to rental cost? What does that do to the cost of housing?
Oh wow, that's interesting.
So you're rewarding the property owner, which we do have. Like everything is written for ownership, right? Like tax rules, everything else.
Right.
And so as a renter, we've talked about this before, you just continue to get behind the eight ball. And these property taxes on non-owner occupied property taxes, they're getting passed. That's going to get passed on to ultimately to the consumer. In our world, it's a guest, but I mean, it can be just a regular long-term renter.
Now, okay. Now this is really, correct me if I'm wrong here in this thought process. When Airbnb hikes up their prices, we talked about fixing your prices and all that, so you're still making money on it. Say you have a property here in Rhode Island and they're going to impose this new property tax, would you then just all the short-term rentals in Rhode Island would just hike up their prices to match or to help with the amazing, huge taxes
and
now?
it doesn't happen across the board. It's
Right.
never all,
Of
but
course.
a good majority of them
Are
are going
probably
to
just
raise their
gonna-
rates. Yeah,
Okay, so then now the
they're gonna be
market's
forced
just
to.
okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Huh.
Just
Okay.
like long-term rents will go up in those areas
Yeah.
because they're going to be forced to pass that on, right? They're going to say, "Hey, listen, I don't want this extra $10,000 loss. I was just breaking even on my property. I'm not even really trying to make money on this property. I just want to break even." But if it's an extra 10 grand a year, that's an extra $800 a month for your renter to have to cover that. That's a
Wow.
big deal.
That is a big deal.
And so it's going to get passed on most likely anyways. And so I think that sometimes those municipalities are a little short-sighted. They're trying to solve one problem and they don't realize the trickle-down effect
Exactly. Yeah.
of some of these policies. You know, all of your cities, like, you know, your highest regulated cities, San Francisco, New York, they have the highest rents in the nation. And they claim that all these rules and regulations and everything else are to bring rents down. It doesn't work.
No.
So just
They're all up.
they're all up.
Yeah.
Are super high.
Yeah.
And so
What's the thought process on this then? To tax the people who are buying these expensive property or the second properties, why would you want to tax
I think you have to
them
be
more?
careful again because most of the areas that people buy second homes in, vacation homes, second homes, they're not typically going to be sustained. Like, you don't have a lot of owner occupants there. And so you're penalizing people for coming in and contributing to the economy with taxes and use and everything else. And many of these areas, think about these resort destinations.
Okay.
We go visit them, but a lot of times there's not a lot of people who just live there, right?
Right.
And so if you're trying to turn them into owner occupied markets, I don't know, you know, if that's the ultimate goal, but a lot of these areas that are getting affected by it they're not going to be owner occupied areas anyways. They
Right.
were always second home areas.
Or it's
right?
a touristy area.
It's a touristy area. I mean,
Okay.
my first short-term rental is in an area called Bear Lake, Utah, and up there it's a madhouse. You should see how many homes are up there. In the summertime, you can't even drive on the streets because it's gotten so busy. It's this backyard resort town in a big lake, mountain lake in northern Utah, and I think the population of the entire town is probably 300. Go up there right now in the middle of the winter. There's almost nobody there. There's 2 gas stations.
Yeah.
No restaurants are open because nobody lives there.
Wow.
And so they're there for the tourists. And so you're going to double property tax in an area to what? What's the ultimate goal? Just to make extra revenue in these areas? It's going to, you know, I don't think it's a smart move personally.
Yeah.
But it affects, in my opinion, negatively on these other areas that are mostly destination type areas. And so, you know, I don't know where Taylor Swift is in. My guess is it's probably more of a resort area in Rhode Island, but maybe it's not. And of why they. I mean, let's see.
Watch Hill and Westerly.
Yeah. So I should know. I don't. I've actually never been to Rhode Island.
I don't know. I don't know
Never
anything.
been to Rhode
That's a really interesting to keep in mind. But I just want the listeners to make sure that they understand this is not just for short-term rentals. This is for other
non-owner occupant, and it is happening in multiple states. We are seeing it. We've seen it in a number of different states being proposed. We've seen it implemented in certain states. And so again, when it comes down to underwriting and it comes down to running your numbers and understanding this stuff, you just got to pay attention to it.
Love it.
It's part of it.
That was all. That's everything I have for today.
That's all we got?
That's everything.
Okay.
Let's promote the webinar. Webinar will be in will be linked in the description. Click it. Join one of those.
Join me live. I'm going multiple times a week. I'm not going to commit to a specific schedule, so just go look when it is. Every single week it's been a little bit different, but I'm trying to do a fairly consistent schedule with the webinar live. You can get your questions answered, but really diving into, I mean, they're lasting a couple hours, so give yourself a little bit of time when you do schedule it and get those questions answered. So link in the bio.
Oh. Last thing also, yes, link in the bio for that, but go check out the case study that we just posted on the YouTube. It's I believe the title is How I Became the #1 Revenue Property in a Saturated Market. It's the start to finish case study, 3 hours long. of your Blue Ridge property.
Oh, do we put that up on
We
the
put it,
YouTube?
put it up
Awesome.
on the YouTube. Go
Awesome.
watch that. Amazing stuff, especially if you're, looking into the quote unquote saturated market. When people told you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And you succeeded. Come on, it's
We
not a
did
big
it.
deal.
We
It's
did
not a
it
big deal.
together. It
Just
was
because-
we did it all together. We just we got on this podcast and said, all right, here we're gonna do this. And so it's it's almost a year and a half case study, and then we have really a 3-year case study because this year we got audited on that property and passed with 0 changes.
There you go.
So that was fun. And so everything that we talked about on that case study, everything got audited by the IRS and came back and stamped it and said things were good.
There you
So
go.
go check it out.
Link in the bio. Go check them out.
Okay. Awesome. We'll wrap up, you guys. We always appreciate you spending your time with us. We know it's valuable. And so thank you for that. We try to help you guys all walk into this game with your eyes wide open, talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the hard work involved in short-term rental investing to help you guys succeed and get your unfair share of business. You guys know we don't run ads or sponsorships on the show. So the only thing we ask you at the end of every episode is if you got any value out of this, please share it. If you don't have anybody to share it with, give us a like or a thumbs up on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Those things help us, and then those platforms will share it with other people like you. And so those things are very much appreciated and help us grow the show to other people that would like to be a part of this conversation. And the final, most important thing I ask you at the end of every episode, and is what we were talking about today, was pick one thing you can do today. Start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website? Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.